up, gorgeous people? This is Amber's DIY and other stuff. I'm Amber, and in this video, I am making a very fun, whimsical Thor wreath. I am so excited about this. I love how this turned out. So without further ado, let's jump into this thing. Okay guys, so we're going to start with making the sign. I'm going to take this outdoor Mod Podge with a foam brush and that Dollar Tree canvas, and we're going to go ahead and lather this canvas up with Mod Podge. And I mean, be very generous, guys. Very, very, very generous with your Mod Podge. The reason why I'm using the outdoor Mod Podge is because this is a wreath and I want to protect this surface the best that I can if it gets in any of the elements. Now, I do have a storm door, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, I'm going to cover this entire canvas with the Mod Podge, the front and the sides, and then I'm going to take this beautiful lightning fabric that I got from Etsy. I love this fabric. It is so gorgeous and it's so very Thor. I'm going to lay this fabric over top of the canvas, making sure that I cover the top and the sides of the canvas with the fabric, because we want to make sure that everything's covered so that it's a nice finished look all the way around the canvas. So once I've got my fabric all laid out, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off all of the excess, making sure that I leave enough that can wrap around the sides of the canvas. So I forgot to move my fork out of the way, but you guys get what I'm doing here, right? After I've done that, I'm going to cut little slits on the corners of the canvas so that it's easy for me to fold those ends over the sides of the canvas. You'll see this later in the video when I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to the sides of the canvas. Okay, so now that that is dry, we're going to go ahead and flip this over and we're going to get that fabric adhered to the sides and the back of the canvas. We're just going to use that same Mod Podge, guys, the outdoor Mod Podge. We're just going to lather this up again and make sure that we get that fabric over the sides of the canvas and the back part of the canvas. Okay guys, what I wanted to show you here is, see how I have all this excess fabric? All you need to do is take your scissors and cut it off, but make sure that you're not cutting off too much. So, you know, just work with it and cut off a little bit at a time, and then just work it into the way that you want it to lay. Then add some more of your Mod Podge in there, preferably with a brush, not a fork, but you guys get the idea. And just go ahead and smooth everything out so that it lays exactly the way that you need it to. Okay, so now that everything's laying the way that I need it to, I'm just going to take some Mod Podge and add a coat to the top part of the fabric. So while that's dry, we're going to move on to the next part. And I have this image that I purchased from a seller on Etsy, and I just printed it off on some transfer paper. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out the image. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Just make sure that you get it as good as you possibly can. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is ironing it on to this white fabric. So the first thing that I want to do is heat up my white fabric here. I'm going to go ahead and heat it up for 30 seconds with my Cricut heat press. Now, you can use a regular iron as well. That is totally fine, but I have a heat press, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. So then I'm going to take this iron on transfer. I'm going to flip it upside down onto the fabric, and as you can see, it's starting to curl up. Anytime that happens, I take my mini heat press, I iron it onto the fabric first, and then I take my large heat press and I go ahead and press it for 60 seconds. Okay, so I just want to reiterate, guys, you do not have to have a Cricut heat press to do this. You can absolutely do this with a regular iron on the highest setting. Okay, so once I've let my image cool completely, like I let it cool completely down, it's ready to peel off. Now, you guys are probably wondering, why didn't I just iron it onto that lightning fabric? Well, because Thor would be totally lost on the lightning fabric. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and put it on this white fabric to give him a border so that you can definitely see him crystal clear. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out a border around him with this white fabric. So how thick you want your border is totally up to you. I didn't want mine super thick, but I wanted it thick enough that he would stand out. So that's all that I'm doing right now. Okay. So once I got everything cut out the way that I think it's going to look pretty good, I'm ready to go ahead and add this image to the canvas. So the first thing that I want to do is figure out how I'm going to put it on there. I kind of want to put it on as an angle so I get an idea of what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip the image over, and I'm going to add that same outdoor Mod Podge that we've been using the entire time to the back part of the image itself. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the Mod Podge to the lightning fabric that's on top of the canvas, just to make sure that it stays nice and good. And as always, I am being extremely generous with the Mod Podge, guys. I do not want this going anywhere, and I want to make sure that everything is nice and secure. Okay, so once I got the Mod Podge all over everything, I'm going to go ahead and add my image to, I don't know, the way that I think that it looks good. And then once I have it in place, I'm going to then add another layer of Mod Podge on top of the image. Again, guys, we have to make sure that we're sealing everything in place. And when you're putting your Mod Podge on, just make sure whatever direction you decide to go in, that's the direction that you stay in for the entire time, just saying. So now that all of that is done, we're letting it dry. And I'm just showing you here the ribbon that I will be using on this project. So I think that it's easiest once you have your ribbon cut to whatever size you want it to be, just take your ribbon and fold it down so that each of the sides are even, and that will let you know where your center is. It's just going to be easier when you're going to go ahead and put these ribbons into the wreath. So let's go ahead and prep our wreath form. So I have this wreath form. It's a square wreath form that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add these pipe cleaners to that center ring. See how it has a bar in the center there? That it's so easy to add these onto that little center part in the bar, because these pipe cleaners aren't going to move all over the place, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate red, silver all the way around the wreath. Okay, so now that all those are in place, I also want to add a pipe cleaner to each of the four corners. And unfortunately, it's a little bit harder to do this because the pipe cleaner is going to move around because I don't have the center bar to secure it in place like I did with the other ones. So I'm going to take the pipe cleaner, twist it in place, and then I'm going to twist it underneath on each side and then twist it again. And that makes it so that it stays perfectly in place. I hope I explained that well, but you guys can also see what I'm doing. So hopefully you guys got that. Now I'm going to take this burlap mesh and I'm going to add it onto the wreath form. So I'm going to start at one of the four corners of the square here, and I'm just going to add it into one of the pipe cleaners. Now I know I should have folded that scraggly end over so that it looked a little bit better, but honestly I wasn't too concerned about it, guys, because you're not going to see this at all. So once I secure that end into place, I also add a zip tie to make sure that it's nice and secure. I only do this if I'm starting a new roll at the very beginning because I just want to make sure that that stays where I want it to stay and it doesn't go anywhere. Cut off my excess with some wire cutters, and then we're just going to start poofing, guys. I wish I could tell you what size my poofs are, but I never know what size they're going to be. I just kind of judge based on what the wreath form looks like and how I want the wreath to look. So I do not know the size of my poofs here. I'm just judging and just going with the flow here and trying to make them all look the same. That's how I do everything. I just kind of wing it. I don't like to measure anything ever. That's just not my thing. I'm not a measury kind of a person. So I just kind of go with the flow, and it usually turns out okay. So once I added all of that in, I realized it looks really sparse. As you can see, look how sparse it looks. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and add another layer of the burlap mesh in the exact same spot, doing the exact same poofs all the way around. The only problem is I'm starting to run out of it. So after I secure this little piece here into place, I'm going to run out of this mesh, right? So you can see that's the end of it. So what I want to do is simply take another roll of it and do the exact same process that I did at the very beginning when I was adding in that other mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and secure it with a pipe cleaner first, and then I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I forgot my zip tie. Here I am trying to grab a zip tie really quick here. I'm going to add the zip tie to this as well, just to make sure that it's nice and secure, guys, because I do not want these beginning pieces to be going anywhere. So this is just a step that I take, not a necessary step. I don't see many wreath makers do it. It's just one of my things that I like to do. So once I get that beginning piece secure, I'm just going to continue around the rest of the wreath, adding that additional layer that is very much needed. Okay, so now we're going to move on to this red deco mesh that I did cut into 14-inch strips, and I'm just going to go ahead and just literally roll it up. It's going to be that simple. Now, a lot of wreath makers will roll one end and then roll the other end and walk it into each other. You guys can do it that way if you want to. I'm just going to literally roll it completely up. I don't see a whole lot of fraying with this red one, so I'm not going to worry about it. Once I've rolled it up, I'm going to just go ahead and add it into the wreath form, and I'm going to add a piece of red mesh all the way throughout the entire wreath, okay? So now I'm ready to add in my ribbon, and I'm just going to take my ribbon where I have that crease in the center. I'm going to accordion fold it into place. Then I'm going to pinch it and then add it into one of the pipe cleaners on the wreath. So I thought it would look good if I rotated 3 different kinds of ribbon. So I have the striped ribbon, I have the burlap ribbon that I showed you, the burlap gray, and then the gray and white polka dot. So I have the stripes, the polka dot, and then the burlap. We're going to start with the stripes. Then I'm going to move on to the gray one. Do the exact same process, guys. Accordion fold it on that crease there, pinch it into place, and then just add it to the wreath. And then you're going to see me add the polka dot one as well. So I'm going to continue that rotation throughout the rest of the wreath. Okay, so this is what it's looking like so far. The next thing I want to do is add that sign that I just made into the center. So to do that, I'm going to take the sign that is completely dry now. I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and just add little slits to each of the four corners so that I can add some pipe cleaners as a way for me to be able to attach this sign to the wreath, okay? So I just added the slits to all four corners. I'm going to take a pipe cleaner, put it through as far as I need it to. Then I'm going to flip it upside down and then just twist the pipe cleaner into place, and obviously, I'm going to need a pipe cleaner in each of the four corners, so I'll repeat this process in the other three corners of the sign. So now that that's done, this is what it's looking like so far, and we're ready to add the sign to the wreath. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my wreath form here, and then I'm just going to push the pipe cleaner through to the other side, and my son decided to set one of the toys right there as I was working on the wreath. Whatever, we're just going to move and roll with it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these pipe cleaners through to the other side. This takes a little bit longer than I want it to, so that's why I'm just kind of speeding through this part. You guys kind of get the idea. I'm just pushing the pipe cleaners through to the other side. Then I will flip the wreath upside down, and you're going to see me attach the sign with the pipe cleaners to the wreath form, okay? So I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys the entire process though. So if you're struggling, don't worry. A lot of wreath makers struggle getting that part done. Now, I don't consider myself a wreath maker. I'm just a crafty person who happens to make wreaths in addition to many other things. So once that's nice and secure in place, I was like, okay, the ribbons aren't quite laying the way that I want them to. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue them to the places that I want them to lay so that they're not covering up too much of the sign. Then I have this deco mesh tubing in the color blue, and that's going to really bring in the blue that's in the sign. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple pieces of that and just make these little loopy-loo type situations. No rhyme or reason to what I'm doing here. Go ahead and secure those into place with the pipe cleaners, and I'll add those all the way around the wreath. Then the next part is I have some McDonald's toys from the Thor Love and Thunder movie, right? I thought this would give it a really nice, fun, whimsical look, guys. This is supposed to be a fun wreath. This isn't a hardcore, I'm going to sell this for, hundreds of dollar wreath. This is for me. So I want to go ahead and add these McDonald's toys into the center all the way around the wreath here, okay? So I don't know that you could really see me add that Thor one very good, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this one as well. So I'm just securing it into place with the pipe cleaners that are already there. Super simple, super easy. I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing here. I just finagle it till I think that it looks good, and that's it. I also made this bow that I want to put at the very bottom of this wreath. Now, I thought about making two bows, but then I wouldn't get to add as many McDonald's toys as I wanted to, so I went ahead and just added one. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take my wire cutters and clean up all of the pipe cleaners all the way around the wreath, and then after I do that, guys, guess what? This wreath is done, and we're ready to show you the final look, and ta-da! Here it is! I love it! I mean, I love it. It is so incredibly fun. Now, I know this isn't for everybody. Most people wouldn't put this on their front door, but most people aren't me, so what can I say? I absolutely love the way that this thing turned out. I think it turned out super, super fun. I have so many more fun ideas for wreath making coming up very soon, so make sure you guys are subscribed and you don't want to miss any of that stuff that I have coming up. So this is all I got for you guys in this video, so until next time,